morning and welcome to another good time here at your favorite morning show, Every Woman on AtikuLive. Like you know, Every Woman is that one show where we get to talk about everything that concerns the woman across all spheres of life. My name is Tiana World Barcy and I'm excited to have you guys join me on today's episode. As usual, I have with me here my co-host.
Hi guys, good morning. You're looking lovely as usual.
Thank you.
I think today we are doing the lady in red thing.
I know, I didn't even notice. That's true.
Yes.
All right, guys. So today we're talking about mental health. Something really very, very important. You know, mental health is so important that in this part of the world it's not recognized. So the massive or the mega touchlight hasn't actually focused on that part of mental health. And over the years, we've not had it being included in the primary health sector, right? Which happens to be a major sector in Nigeria. Yeah. I mean, the MBS have said that 1 in every 4 Nigerians suffer from mental disorder. If we have over 60 million of Nigerians suffering from mental health, I'm breaking it down to every woman. I mean, this is every woman. We're talking about the women. 52% of that number are women. So why don't we have a good number of awareness? Why are we not really talking about it? Why do we trivialize an issue as important as mental health? Even the World Health Organization has estimated it to have over 480 million people across the world who are suffering from mental health, right? Yeah. And Nigeria making 60 million of that number. It's something that we really need to look into. And in the course of the show, we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to look at the impact of mental health in the society. We're also going to talk about the causes. We're also going to talk about the effects and some of the signs, because a lot of time people, when somebody say, I'm actually suffering from mental health, the person might not necessarily know, or I'm actually suffering from mental disorder. The person might not necessarily know what he or she is saying. But if we're able to pinpoint the signs, early signs, because it doesn't just happen. There are early signs that lead to issues like this. If we're able to pick it out, if people are able to identify it, it makes the work really easier.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I don't know why, I feel that when I talk about issues like this, it's very emotional for me because I understand what it means for someone. I don't personally understand because I can't say I empathize, that I know, because I don't. But I can imagine what it is like to lose control of the one thing that is yours, your mind.
Your mind,
You know, you lose control of your mind for whatever reason, and there's no imagination. That you basically lost your essence. So I really can't imagine what it is like. And to think that we don't pay enough attention to people that are going through this, especially women, it's just a sad thing. I like what you said, and that we are not including them in primary health care, And then it actually just made me reflect, like, does NHIS, do health insurance scheme, not necessarily NHIS, but do health insurance schemes in general, cover the cost of treatment, or take into account, people that are going through these challenges. I mean, there's a whole lot to talk about. I mean,
it's really wide.
Just sit, because there's still a lot to unpack.
Yes,
really.
It's not something we can actually talk about on the surface. Like when I started, I said it's an integral part of public health, of health sector in Nigeria. So it's not something we're just going to talk about in the surface. And I'm excited that we have a mental health consultant who we're actually going to be talking to in the course of the show to shed more light on it, because we need to know what the government is doing about this. We need to know if there are laws and acts and reforms that actually look into mental health, because if 1 in every 4 Nigeria, and this data actually...
That's a very common, like 1 out of... I mean, we are more than 4 again right here. So it follows that at least 2-3 people would have mental disorders and probably wouldn't even know it. I mean, I might be one of those persons.
That's why we're actually going to look at some of the signs. Because like I said, when you see someone displaying some act, you might not necessarily know what is wrong with the person, right? But when you're able to pinpoint some of these signs, people get to, it's just like when you want to suffer malaria, when you want to have malaria.
The symptoms.
There are symptoms, right? There are symptoms that you get to feel. Some people have migraine, some people get body pains. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Just the same way we have symptoms, we also have symptoms when you probably have COVID.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing, because mental health
what
is
are
also
the pointers?
a health challenge.
How do you know?
Yes.
And I think when you say mental health, a lot of people just assume it's madness.
Madness, yeah.
I mean, it's not. There are different types of mental disorders. So I think It's more like starting from there to understand, okay, so what are the symptoms and what symptoms, these symptoms for what condition, is it for? I mean, there's borderline personality, there's bipolar disorder, there's obsessive compulsive disorder, and I feel like I suffer from OCD because, almost everybody I know has some form of OCD. I think I have with symmetry. There are two cups right now on the table, two mugs rather on the table. If there were, these two or there were four and they're not symmetrically placed, it disturbs me. And it took a lot for me to understand and actually go and read about OCD to understand that, oh, okay, so this is an actual thing. And I know people have that with whatever it is. Some people cannot, your cup's facing that way. Someone is going to come and touch it and make sure that everything is just, just right, just in place. So everybody has, I think, just a little bit. So these numbers, you think they're alarming, that they're unreal, it's not possible, but they actually are possible because people don't even understand what these mental disorders are. They think mental disorder, when you say mental disorder, they just imagine mad people and all those people they usually pack in vans, which is another problem really when they go around. I know there used to be one agency then that used to come round and pack mad people. If you're in the road, you're a mad person, they just pack you in a van and pack you to one psychiatric home that doesn't even have enough facility.
Yeah, and talking about mad people, IJ, I think before even got to the level where the person is roaming the streets, where the person has to be mad. mad in Nigerian terms, right? There must have been symptoms. It must have started gradually, right? And people don't pay attention to it. People just, okay, that's how it is. And that's why I have a problem with when someone say, that's how I am. That's how I want to be.
A mad person will tell you, this is how I am. Or if somebody with mental challenge will tell you, this is how I am. We're talking about postpartum disorder. Yeah. We're talking about disorder, and we talked about how, the person doesn't even know.
Yeah.
They will tell you, I just don't like the child. You just don't like the child, but you don't know that there's a reason why you don't like this child. So, people don't even know. They just hide under the guise of, that's how I am, that's my nature, leave me like this.
And there's most of the times when we have issues, and symptoms like that in Nigeria, most of the times those patients are not sent to the hospital. They don't have adequate care.
The next thing you're just
you're being possessed by evil spirits.
It's a spiritual problem and you're stigmatized. And I think it's just sad because, it comes down to education really. Because if you have access to the right kind of information, access to relevant information, which is what we're trying to do right now, to get this information across to people so that you're informed, just so that when you see somebody who has some sort of disorder tomorrow, you don't come out and say, oh, this person has spiritual problem, they've possessed this one. You know exactly. If the person cannot identify the signs or the person is not informed enough, you're better informed, you know how to help the person, how to seek for help and all of that. And you could just be an asset to that person really. You could even save the person from the deteriorating, case.
And it should be something that people have to, we really need to look into, because most times, most of these patients are subjected to family care. And then some of them are sent back to the villages and they are being treated traditionally. And some of these substances, we don't even know what they are taking in. Do you understand?
And once they send you to a mental health facility, anything for rehabilitation, it's a stigma. People start stigmatizing you. They're like, oh, okay, so they are firstborn or their daughter.
So a lot of people don't even get to say it out because they are scared of that stigma. And a lot of families get to hide the case, they get to hide the child, and then some of them protect the child, and some of them just keep them to themselves. I think it's degenerating from being a normal mental disorder that you would have been able to work on to something bigger. Because imagine putting someone who has a mental disorder in an isolated room, isolating the person from everybody.
It's worse. Okay,
it becomes worse.
I think now I'm trying to draw comparison. So I was watching this show recently, Blood Sisters.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw how Timaine was sent to this mental facility as a punitive measure, not even to help her, just because they wanted her out of sight, they wanted her out of the way. You saw them with the canes and everything.
To her family.
That's why she was there, not to get help. We saw them with canes and everything. That's very inhumane. That's not what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to, I like to draw comparison between facilities that I see in Sena Climes and the kind of mental facilities that we have in Nigeria. And I'm like, wow. Look at the disparity. In Nigeria, I don't understand. The person has a disorder. The person is not an animal. I don't see why you be carrying cane to flog a human being just because they have a disorder. It could be anybody really.
Yeah.
And you're not, some people, or most people are not even born with these disorders. They happen. So it could be you tomorrow and somebody's going to be following you just because it's just not nice.
So when you're talking about mental facility in Nigeria, I would like to ask you this, IJ. How many mental facilities do we have in Nigeria? And how many mental health practitioners do we have?
I think we have quite a couple. We have a lot of federal-owned facilities, across states. I'm not sure of the exact number, so I can't authoritatively speak on that. And then as for the practitioners themselves, I know a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists, but obviously everybody wants to be a marriage counselor now, only because it's a big thing. So everybody's more interested in, okay, let me go and counsel, let me go and, psychologists, let me go and work with married people and help them to, work over their issues. It's more than that. There are people that legit need your help, and a lot more could be done because these are potential being wasted. People that have I was reading the story of a young man that finished medical school and went, berserk. And
a lot of them.
Yeah, and I sat back and was like, okay, so this guy might have been showing signs throughout his entire course of study and nobody took it seriously. And then you have somebody who's brilliant enough to have finished medical school come out, and then we've lost this person, we've lost this resource because, adequate action wasn't taken on time. And up to now, nothing is really being done about it. And these are resources. How many more people, when you say 1 in 4 persons have suffer from mental disorder in Nigeria, it means 1 in 4 person, we've lost, for every 4 persons we have in Nigeria, we've lost one resource, one talent, somebody that could bring a lot potentially to the table, and it's sad.
So IJ, we're not actually talking about the challenges, because when you talk about we having facilities across the state, across Nigeria, how many people can actually afford this facility? Now brings us to another challenge.
How many people want to go?
How many people even want to go? How many people are aware enough or informed enough to know that when you actually spot a sign or a symptom, you can take a child or take your loved one to a facility and the person gets treated?
Awareness. A lot of awareness has to be created. I love what Dr. Victor Ogumani is doing with his foundation and how he's able to bring help with the helplines. I think we need, in Nigeria, this is a problem. We don't really have standard helplines, or there are just so many numbers. You want to reach out to the people. I can bet that a lot of people that are listening to us right now don't know who to call if there's an emergency, a fire emergency, a police emergency, so I talk more of, a mental health emergency. If you have these issues, if somebody just runs berserk or runs away or who do you call? Who do you call? You don't know where to go to. You don't know who to. Obviously, you can't take this person to a general hospital because that's not where they belong. A lot of people take them to general hospitals. So, it still comes down to a lot of awareness. Awareness has to be created. People have to know this is what this situation is. This is what this is. And I think there's a mental health awareness day. So we should utilize all of these opportunities. In fact, take advantage of other opportunities. We don't even want to have to wait for opportunities to avail themselves. We should just take advantage of any day that we have, any opportunity that we have, any time that we have to create awareness, to put out facilities. If you're going to have mental health facilities, let them not look like prison yards, because nobody wants to stay there. It's very, very depressing in itself, and it's even going to worsen the case. So beautify the place. Who says you can't paint the place, have it look really nice? And the problem with a lot of government-owned facilities is that they are neglected.
And they end up becoming dilapidated at the end of the day.
So they don't even have the capacity to take care of these people. You go there, they just put them in chains on the bed, and they are there in chains and they can't move. They can't. Some of them
I don't want my family some of these practitioners don't even get to talk to them one-on-one, because sometimes I feel when you have a one-on-one conversation with someone, you can actually detect what the major problem is.
Some of them are not even trained. Like some of the people that interact with them are not trained to work with this. You just bring any random person and tell them to hold a mad person or hold somebody that has a disorder. You don't know the type of disorder they have. Okay, so for somebody who has bipolar disorder, for example, you know that this person is normal half of the time, but this person has a tendency, or for borderline personalities, the person has a tendency to swing moods, to have very dangerous thoughts, to hallucinate. And at this point, or at these points, this person can harm themselves, They can harm themselves and they can harm you.
Yes.
Do you know that? So the person comes in and you're chatting with the person and the person seems okay and you're like, oh, I beg all these people. And then you're treating the person and you don't understand the condition of this person. And this person can switch, pick up any object close to them, kill people. This has happened a lot of time. And they kill themselves or they kill you. And you because you don't know. They are not trained to handle these people. So you bring, it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Because every disorder is different from the other.
Unique,
yeah. So people have to be trained. They have to understand. I mean, you don't have a doctor that is so skilled in malaria and doesn't know about typhoid. Yeah. If the doctor sees a typhoid patient, he's not going to recognize or know what to do.
We even have doctors that have specialties like
specialized doctors. So they're brain surgeons and
practitioners as well.
So train them, let them be able to understand the symptoms, let them be able to understand the signs, let them understand the disorder in itself, know how to manage an individual that has this, disorder, know what to give the person, because what you're giving this person is not what you should give this person. Know how to control and work with them and things that help their mood.
So at the end of the day, just like we have special practitioners for a disorder like autism, let's have special practice. Let's have people who are practically trained to handle people with different mental disorders. Not just one. All right, guys, we're going to go on a very quick break. When we're right back, we'll take it up from where we stopped. Don't go nowhere.
We want to introduce to you one single Nigerian with multiple competencies. A man who is welcome in all the 36 states of the Federation. Oh, yeah. Excellency, this is Lagos. Welcome home. Excellency, we have spoken to ourselves. And we decided to say, you know what? We care less whatever is happening anywhere. What is paramount to us is to deliver Nigeria at the same time Lagos is for the people of Africa. We appreciate you. We believe in you. We cherish you. From this date, there will be an offset in 2023. I have come to see for myself that PDP is on ground in Lagos. In all my political career, I have never seen Lagos so mobilized. As one, we can get it done.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Every Woman on AtikuLive, and today we are discussing mental health. And we've said that mental health is an integral part of the health sector. It cannot be taken out. Just the same way we pay attention to other illnesses like cancer, like malaria, typhoid, and the rest of them.
And we have interventions for them.
And we have interventions for them. Let's also pay attention to mental health, because if the MBS have said 1 out of 4 Nigerians actually suffer from mental disorders, then it's something we need to take seriously. And some of these statistics and data, it's not recent. We're talking about as far back as 2020, 2019. Yeah. So it's not like it has been updated.
It's a big deal. I think for borderline personality disorder, bipolar is about 50 million people, over 50 million, and borderline is about over 100,000 people. In Nigeria, not outside the country, in Nigeria. So people have these cases, or they have, and these are the known cases really, because a lot of people have not even, been found, they've not been come out, so you don't know that they have this. These are the people that that have come out, that have been diagnosed, and we know that this is that case.
We've not talked about people who have been kept isolated, who have been isolated by family members.
People that are in spiritual homes. We've not even looked at those people.
The spiritual, because I think that mental facility in the movie you talked about is a spiritual home, because
it felt like that. It had that feel, but I mean,
let's look at some of the causes of mental health, and one of them that I am big on is drug abuse.
Drug abuse, that is the most common cause of mental health disorder in
because
Nigeria.
like I've seen a couple of you made mention, you used a case study about a medical student who actually had this disorder because after finishing medical school and all of them. And I've seen a couple of medical students while I was in school who taking drugs. Some of them will tell you it will help them calm down, it will help them breathe, and then you're taking marijuana, you're taking other different substances to help you, to put you together. You don't know that some of those substances you're taking are actually going to affect you at the end of the day.
Oh, Tiana, I think we should have a separate topic for drug abuse because I don't know if you understand just how much of a problem drug abuse is in this country. It is.
Are we actually trivializing?
It is a huge problem. In every locality in Nigeria, there are hard drugs. I think it was somewhere in Maiduguri that the village chief was caught with drugs. It was a drug dealer, and you're wondering, this is the level that we've gotten to. You're seeing crystal meth. It's almost everywhere in places like Anambra. Like crystal meth is everywhere. So I mean, drug abuse is a whole different kettle of fish, and it's a lot. There's a lot to even do in that regard.
Of course, I think we're actually going to have a time to talk about drug abuse in itself, because drug abuse, we've seen underage people.
It's everywhere, unrestricted.
It's everywhere, yes, and people have access to it.
It's very easily accessible. Drug abuse, as in drugs are more accessible than sachet water. They are very, very accessible. Anybody can get drugs these days, and it's just sad. Anyway, it is what it is, really. Drug is the leading cause of mental disorder in Nigeria. Yeah. But then we have other things that we don't really look at, like poverty.
Yeah.
Poverty is a huge, it causes mental disorder. And we've looked at these figures before. We've seen that more women are living below the poverty line as compared to their male counterparts. So we know that, if poverty causes mental disorders and women are living below the poverty line, more women are, predisposed to living with poverty than, their male counterparts, then more women have,
we've already said 52%.
So more women, have mental. Another thing also is political instability. It has been linked. In US, there was a study that was carried out and showed that political instability leads to mental health challenges. And then it makes you wonder, how many mad people do we actually have in Nigeria? How many mentally unstable people do we have? Because this is a very politically unstable climate, to be honest. We live in a mad country. We are living in a mad country. And you wonder how the state of things, the state of the country, affects somebody's mental health. I mean, we've been pushed, I think our minds as Nigerians, we've been tested, we've been pushed to the limit. Because, how can you come out and tell a full-grown person, an educated person, that monkeys are swallowing money? Snakes are swallowing money, they are living. You've tested the limits of our understanding of our brain. You've tested, you've pushed us to that point and back. So the average person in Nigeria has some sort of mental disorder. That's a given.
We've said this before in the course of the show, that if you can survive in Nigeria, you can survive anywhere in the world. And Nigerians should be given certificate of survival. because like you said, we're actually in the political unstable climate. If we can actually survive in today's Nigeria with everything that is happening with inflation, poor educational system, poor everything.
It's sad. And it makes you wonder how much, we should actually... I think I was reading something earlier, and I came across where somebody was actually trying to understand how the minds of leaders work. And I tried to make a comparison, and again, and bring it back to Nigeria, draw comparisons. If the person at the head is mentally unstable, then I don't know what we're doing. And this is why we've had issues. With one of the presidential candidates, there were aspersions cast as to his mental ability and if he should undergo a mental health check. And people probably took that as a jibe and laughed it off. But it's a valid question.
It's very important.
It's a very valid question.
2022 elections are just here.
We can't have somebody with mental disorder that is untreated, not taken care of, leading us as a country.
Yeah,
somebody will say you want to carry us to where we don't know. Because if you're not in the right state of mind, you can make decisions. You can make abrupt decisions. You can make wrong decisions. You can make decisions that affect over 200 million people.
Ajay, when you were talking about if you're not in the right state of mind, it just brings me to 2023 elections and some of the presidential candidates that we have. We can have someone who has a mental disorder lead Nigerians, especially with where Nigeria is at the moment. We need someone who has reforms, who have policies, working policies, someone who can actually bring Nigeria out of where we are right now. Because at the moment, Nigeria is actually below everything.
I mean, if somebody has a mental challenge, and I'm not stigmatizing on it, I've never been one to do that.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you're not in the right state of mind,
you can't lead a country.
You can't lead.
You can't even
but
lead
you need
a WhatsApp
to seek
group.
what you need to do.
You can't even lead a WhatsApp group. Let's start from there.
Yeah.
Before we talk about leading Nigeria, I mean, with over 2 million plus.
I would say if you have a mental challenge, seek help rather than put yourself in that state because leading a country comes with a lot of pressure.
Of course.
It's a lot of pressure. We've seen, in certain countries, we've seen when before and after. We saw before and after for Goodluck.
Yeah.
We saw before and after for Barack Obama, how young they looked before they assumed power and how they looked after because the pressure. And for somebody, I mean, we have a current president that looks better after. His after looks way better than his before. I mean, so it follows that, maybe what they said is true. Maybe somebody's not doing anything. Because if you're actually weighed down by what it means, your day-to-day activities leading an entire country, you will not be looking young at all. You will not be looking young.
Let's talk about another cause, right? Because I'm talking about this cause because we're talking about Nigeria, the present state of Nigeria, and that is depression. Nigeria will put you in a state of depression. Like
constant depression.
Yes, constant depression. Because, I mean, for a family, we've talked about this over time. For a family who has probably 6 kids
and is earning 33,000,
and they're earning 33,000.
We are assuming that they are earning 33 at the minimum, at the very least 33. Some earn 20.
Yeah, it will put you into constant depression. We talked about somebody coming out to tell us that bees ate money or monkeys swallowed money. It's enough to put a normal person into depression. I mean, how can bees? Where did the bees come from?
I mean, we've seen rodents chase people from the presidential villa.
So anything.
I mean, in this country now, it's like I said, they've tested the limits of our mind. They've pushed us to the limits. They've tested it, and you cannot be sane. You cannot claim to not have some sort of mental disorder after living in this country.
Yeah,
you've been affected in some way. There's psychological, there's a psychological imbalance that comes with just living in this country.
We've seen some of the effects of depression. A lot of people, it becomes suicidal.
Yeah. A
lot of people can't take it anymore. They just end it.
And that's the thing, because, in Nigeria, it's actually an offense. To commit suicide is an offense. You wonder when they force you to this limit and you're trying. Obviously, I don't know what you can do to a dead person.
Suicide has never been the way out.
It's never been a way out. But we've seen a lot more suicide cases recently. Yeah. We've seen a lot more in the past 3-4 years. We've seen a lot more people, students, workers, fathers, mothers, people taking their own lives for whatever reason. And it only goes to show you that this person was not in a good state, a good place mentally, because I don't know where you have to be, what space your head has to be in for you to consider taking your own life. And I like that a lot of civil organizations are taking this up and doing more. And I think another cause that we might have skipped is also inequality. I mean, this is for the women. There's a lot of psychological strain that comes with gender inequality. A report has actually shown this as well. So just being marginalized just because you're a woman, it puts some sort of strain on your mental health. And you're always trying to prove a point. You're always trying to, be visible. You're trying to be seen. And people do things because they're always in their head. How can I do this? How can I be relevant? How can I be? And it causes a lot of psychological strain on.
Ajay, let's talk about this before we go on a very quick break. That's when you talked about proving a point. It brings me to the stigmatization of stigma of discrimination. When we talked about self-esteem and self-confidence, a lot of time people they've narrowed the way of mental disorder because they can't fit in. They feel they can't fit in. They assume they can't fit in. And of course, we've said this time without knowing, but assumption is the lowest form of intelligence. You're thinking you can't fit in. At the end of the day, you just become depressed.
And you don't have to fit in. Or you
You
better
don't have to.
to
You
stand
just have
out.
to stand out. Whoever says you have to fit in. All right, guys, we're going to go to a very quick break. But we're right back. We have our guest on standby who will be talking to us on mental health. Don't go nowhere. Stay with us.
Growing up as a little boy, we were told every day that we were the leaders of tomorrow. Good roads, stable power supply, good education, job opportunities, political inclusion, better health care, reduction of the cost of living were some of the things we were promised in tomorrow. We were so excited about the hope we had been fed with about tomorrow. But days went by, years went by, and tomorrow never came. Turned out there was never really a plan for tomorrow. It was all a lie to keep us in their mental slavery. Because with each day that goes by, I see my country being stripped of her glory. But we know better now. We are more aware now. It is time to take our country back from these hijackers who keep recycling themselves. If this tomorrow must come, we will have to create it ourselves. But this time with someone we can trust. Someone who understands our pain. And so I call on every Nigerian youth. Come 2023, come out and vote. Because our vote is our power. When you vote, vote for a man we can trust. Vote for a breath of fresh air. Vote Atiku Abubakar for president.
This nation for the first time is most divided like never before. This nation for the first time stands in a place and position of its greatest challenges, perhaps since the Civil War. This is the most challenging period in the economy of our nation. This is the most challenging period in the security, infrastructure or statue of our nation. This is the most challenging situation in almost every facet of the unity of this nation. And there is no one man, as far as the current permutation, the current arrangement is concerned, that is most positioned to salvage and to save the situation like Atiku Abubakar. I'll tell you the truth, we all know the presidential aspirants that are out there. By experience, Atiku is far and above every one of them. He has been an elected governor, he has been a vice president for 8 years, and so many other experiences that he's bringing to board. None of them can boast of that experience. None of them possesses that kind of experience coming into this election. He is the one man who has told us he will unify this country, and we've seen his antecedents. He has friends across the length and breadth of this country like none of those presidential aspirants do. He is a man who has connected well with every Nigerian. He's not a bigot. He's not a tribalist. He's a man who knows nobody after your creed or tribe. He's a man who knows you as a Nigerian. Atiku is a nationalist. Atiku is a patriot. This is the truth of the matter. This is the kind of man that the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, is presenting to Nigerians. And I can assure you, come 2023, Nigerians will live to celebrate. Nigerians will live to be happy with themselves that a man has come to save Nigeria, that Atiku Abubakar has come to save Nigeria, because that has been in the core of his heart. That has been his heart cry for all these decades, for all these years that he has sought to be the president of this country. And I assure you, he will unite warring factions of this country. He will bring about the security of this country. He will bring about the economic development of this nation, and all Nigerians will be proud. Today, Nigeria has become a laughing stock in the scheme of things, even on the African continent. We used to be the giant of Africa. We used to be the leader of Africa. But all of a sudden, we've become the laughing stock of Africa. Atiku will change that narrative. Atiku will change that story. Atiku is the best man. He is the right man. He is the man positioned to take this nation to its glory land.
As one, to take our
we
country
can
back
get
from
it
these
done.
hijackers who keep
This nation for the first time is most divided like never before. This nation for the first time stands in a place and position of its greatest challenges, perhaps since the Civil War. This is the most challenging period in the economy of our nation. This is the most challenging period in the security, infrastructure or stature of our nation. This is the most challenging situation in almost every facet of the unity of this nation. And there is no one man, as far as the current permutation, the current arrangement is concerned, that is most positioned to salvage and to save the situation like Atiku Abubakar. I tell you the truth, we all know the presidential aspirants that are out there.
Not someone that plays regional politics. Yes, Atiku Abubakar is a bridge builder. Atiku Abubakar is a unifier in its true meaning. You see, I love him so much because he sees himself above a region of our northern extract. He sees himself as a true Nigerian. I am from Niger Delta. I was born in the north, and as God will have it, I've traversed far and wide this nation. And I come to realize that Atiku's time is now, because everyone on the street is singing Atiku. In fact, Atiku is being preached in virtually every household as it stands right now. So his time is now. God has destined him, and no one is going to take it away from him.
As one, we can get it done.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Every Human, and we are talking about mental health. Before we went on the break, we said we have a guest who we'll be talking to and who will also be throwing more light on mental health. I mean, who is best to talk about mental health aside from someone who knows more about it. So we have Mr. Zion Ame Abba on the line, and he's the founder of the Mandate Health Empowerment Initiative, convener Association of Mental Health Reform Organizations for the Promotion of Mental Health in Africa. Good morning, Mr. Zion.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure joining this show this morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you here.
My pleasure.
All right, sir. So we're looking at mental health, and in the course of the show, we've been able to talk about some of the causes, and we've looked at mental health generally, but would like to talk to you about it. We'd like to ask what are the major causes of mental health? We'd like to hear it from a more professional angle. What are the major causes of mental health?
Wow. I'm really happy.
What are the major causes of mental health, in your opinion?
Goodness.
Hello, Mr. Zaya, can you hear me, please?
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Can you just give me your question? Can you just put...
Okay, I think we're having issues connecting with him. Yeah. I mean, okay, we'll try back anyway, but we are talking about the major causes.
Yes, we saw it before we went on the break. I actually wanted to talk about it. We are just asking him to hear it from a professional
standpoint, yes. And like we were saying, inequality, I think that's where we were before we went on the break. We're looking at inequality and how inequality has affected, the mental health of women. I mean, we can't even stress this enough.
We can't state this enough. Over and over again.
And then we're looking at signs. How do you know?
How do you know you actually have mental health?
Because a lot of people, like we already said, don't know that they have mental health disorders. So how do you know that you have mental health disorder of some sort? Okay,
so I think our guest is trying to reach us again. Let's take the call. Hello, Mr. Zion. Hello, Mr. Zion. Can you hear us, please? Hello?
Okay. Whilst we're still trying to reconnect with Mr. Zion, I think we should be looking at those signs.
Yes.
I mean, you were saying something about sleeping.
Yes, I was talking about changing sleeping habits, and I just said, are you sure? Are you sure some of us don't even have mental disorder? Because sometimes we don't actually pay attention to these things, and these things are there. We can't just say, we cannot say like these things are not there, right? So we don't pay attention to it, and this is more like a sign.
Yeah, I think when you find yourself like insomnia, really, if you find out that you're having challenges sleeping or rested at the time that you're used to, a break in that your sleep pattern or your sleep cycle can be an indication or an indicator that there's something wrong, with your mental health. This is something a lot of people try to ignore. But personally, I think when that happens to me, when I see any kind of change in my sleep cycle,
you just pay attention to it more.
I pay attention. I try to see what I'm doing differently. Am I waking up earlier than usual? Was I more stressed during the day? What's going wrong? Where is this?
Why are you
from?
getting it wrong? Yes.
Yeah.
So let's look at another one. That's a loss of interest. Let's look at loss of interest, because somebody might laugh at this and like, how can this be a mental disorder? When you see someone who finds pleasure in staying alone. Isolate, and this is as
find pleasure in their own company.
Yes, as opposed to how they are before. Imagine I want to be around IG all the time, and then the next minute I don't even want to see IG. I don't want IG to talk to me.
I mean, for women, I think a lot of people assume that that's normal for women. Mood swings.
Yeah, mood swings.
1 minute you're happy, and the next minute you're down. And I know that for women, because our hormones play with us, a lot in different ways, it can be a thing. So if I find out I'm happy, and sometimes it happens, you can just find out that you're down.
Okay, so our guest is trying to reach us, and let's see if we can take this call now. Hello, Mr. Zion. Hello. So we are really having lots of challenges, and Mr. Zion, we hope to hear from you.
We really hope to,
when
because
we're talking
there's
about
a lot.
Because, there's a lot to talk about. We would have to talk about this again because
we need to hear. Yes, we need to hear it from a professional standpoint. We need to hear it from somebody who is actually in the field and knows what these cases are, what's going on, and how they've been able to manage these cases. I have a lot of questions, really. I'm hoping
I do as well, because I mean, some of us go through, some of us experience this thing, and we don't even see it as anything. Imagine someone having change in feelings, right? People experience increased feeling of attack or panic or sadness.
What about eating disorders?
Do you understand? And people don't know that this is
and suddenly the person doesn't want to eat, or they feel like they are not eating enough, or they are eating too much. Like, there's so many. I really want to speak with him, because I feel like there are things that we need to learn, and not just for us, for everybody else that is watching, because somebody out there somewhere really needs this information. And Mr. Zion, please, I don't know why the network is doing this to us today,
we can't wait to actually have him back on the show, so we can actually talk about it. Before, our time is fast spent, but before we go, this whole conversation will not be complete if we don't talk about some of the laws in Nigeria.
Yep.
Some of the acts in Nigeria that actually associates with mental health. I'm just going to read something real quickly, and that's the Lunacy Ordinance.
Oh, the Lunacy Act of 19.
It was actually enacted in 1916 as Lunacy Ordinance, and then in 2003 it was now adopted as the Lunacy Act for mental health, and it's something that, we've said this over time, that Nigerians are just good at making policies.
And not affecting them. They're not even effective across some of the states in Nigeria, and just some.
And some of these policies are not even adopted fully.
Some of the wordings with the policies. I mean, this 1916, that's a policy that is over how many years old, and it's not even relevant. There's things that have changed. You're living in a dynamic society, in a dynamic world. You can't keep holding on to the same policies. Your policies need to be relevant to the times. They need to be dynamic as well. So if you're living in a dynamic world, the policies have to be dynamic. And I mean, that's why we have provisions for reforms. So you have that original policy reading, referring to these people as idiots, as lunatics, as idiots. And I feel like some of the terminology there was wrong. I don't know, this is just my own personal view. I feel like some of the terminology was wrong. It needs to be reformed. It needs to be more inclusive. I told you it was an offense to commit suicide in Nigeria. But you have these people who are mentally challenged, mentally disabled, who are pushed to that depth where they actually take their own lives. And and even attempting to kill yourself, I mean, even if you go to court, you're still going to have to. I mean, what does this policy say? What does it state? You're going to have to go to jail. You might have to spend some time in jail. You might have to, you might be granted bail. There's provision for you to be granted bail. But I mean, it's not inclusive because nobody wants to take their life on purpose.
Of course.
Nobody wants to take their life on purpose. Nobody wants to take their life of their own volition, of their own will, of their own choosing. Nobody chooses to do that to themselves. So I think more than looking at this policy should reflect what the realities on ground are.
Sorry, IJ, sorry to cut you, but in 2013, a new bill was introduced as part of the National Policy for Mental Health Service Delivery, and the aim was to establish the foundations for delivering care to people with mental and substance addiction difficulties. Now, this was as far back as 2013. If this policy was implemented, why do we have an increase in the percentage of people that actually suffer from mental health? Because we're supposed to be seeing a decrease. Why is there always an increase in some of these areas that we're talking about? That is because somebody is not doing what he or she is supposed to do. And this brings me to Nigeria in 2023, 2024. We have to look out for someone who actually has priority in major areas in Nigeria.
The health of the people that you want to lead. You need to care about them.
Across all boards, from education to health, which is you can't even do without.
Because
it everywhere.
If you're looking at mental health, it really touches everything. Because an educated person, somebody not really education in the sense of formal education. I mean, we've talked about the medical doctors. Some of them might even be out of pressure. The mental disorder might be out of just sheer pressure. And we know that people that if you have enough awareness on the dangers of substance abuse and how this causes mental health disorder, and you have enough information, awareness is created, you know exactly what this is. I think it's going to deter a lot of people from, abusing drugs. And if you provide enough security, maybe these drugs will not be traded just as freely. If there are health policies, better health policies, when as regards to mental health issues, I think what we're going to see is also a decrease in the amount of mental health disorders or mismanaged cases that we have in Nigeria. And then you move on from that. You think about, you look at the fact that a lot of terrorists or groups that have been engaging in insecurity or causing insecurity in the country have this form of amnesty. They have been rehabilitated. And I feel like the same rehabilitation should also extend to people that, for substance abuse. Some of these narcotics, some of these drugs are addictive. So they have issues, they have challenges, legitimate challenges, stopping, the abuse of these substances. And rather than vilify them or, try constantly to demonize them and, put them in, called drug addicts, mad person and all that, I think a lot more should be done in terms of rehabilitation. So this person comes and they abuse substances, don't come out and try to, your first thought shouldn't be arresting. In fact, I feel like if the NDLEA arrests somebody with tons of drugs and the person is abusing drugs, it should go beyond
the
arresting these persons. It should go beyond destroying these substances. There should be plans, better plans, a better framework for rehabilitating these persons.
All right, so guys, we are actually running out of time, and we can't, I don't know, we really need time to talk about some of these issues. We need enough time. But before we leave the studio today, I'm just going to read out one or two quotes, and that is, the first one is from Lisa Oliveira, and she says, just because no one else can heal or do your inner work for you doesn't mean you can, should, or need to do it alone.
So who was that said, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. Yeah, I think that's it.
So it still boils down to what we're saying. There's no point isolating somebody who has a mental disorder, especially when you know that the case is deteriorating by the day. There's no point doing just let the person seek help. Don't isolate the person, right? And I know a lot of people will say this still boils down to stigmatization. What will people say? How will people see my family? People will say, in my family we have lineage of madness, or we have madness in my family, and the rest of it. So give people the help they deserve at the end of the day. The bottom line is that let people be able to access help. And then the government has a lot of work to do in rehabilitation, in fixing our health facilities.
System.
Because, I mean...
And the health sector in general. I mean, what you said just even struck a point. I mean, we're saying that there's madness in the family. I mean, we have behavioral genetics. We have traits that are passed down, whether, you know, positive or negative. We have traits that are passed down from father to mother to you know, to the entire generation. And then we have inborn metabolic disorders that, you know, make the person come across as stupid. You have phenylketonuria idiots.
Yeah.
These are metabolic disorders that actually impair the person's sense of reasoning or how the person responds, or, you know, to things. And these are traits that can potentially be passed from parents to their children. So they now come and say this person, they are mad in their family, and it's just a small disorder, you know, that is just not being managed or treated. Let's
talk about the last one. And it's healing takes time, and asking for help is a courageous step. Yeah, healing takes time. It's not, it's just like you going to pick up a mad person on the street and you think the person will get healed or get better by tomorrow. There needs to be some sort of constant rehabilitation, constant follow-up. I mean, even people that abuse drugs, when you try to get them, win them over, there has to be follow-up. If you don't follow up, they'll go back to what they were doing before.
Yeah.
Because there's no good space where they can actually have freedom to express themselves. So there have to be some sort of follow-up. All right, guys, this is the much we can take on today's episode. We want to say a big thank you to Mr. Zion. I know he's watching wherever he is. We're really sorry the network couldn't let us talk to you. That's not going to let us
have him some other time.
Yeah, we would definitely
have questions that we want answered.
Yes, we would definitely have him. It's so good to have you guys join us on today's episode. Please, our social media handles are displayed on the screen. Do well to send us your tweets. IJ, we've not been taking people's tweets.
We will start taking your tweets very soon, so send them in.
So send us your tweets, send us your suggestions and your comments to the social media handles that are displayed right now on your screen. We will be taking them in the course of the show. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. A big shout out to our guest, Mr. Zion. We appreciate the work we are doing. Please keep doing the good work. My name is Tiana Waldber. See Ed. Until I see you tomorrow, stay out of trouble.
My name is Ijo Maudumedu, and I'm saying don't stigmatize, show love and care to everybody. And I would like to also show appreciation to our crew, everybody that works with us behind the scenes to make sure that this show is a success as always. Thank you.